Hello and welcome everyone. Boom shakalaka, I'm your host Stefan Burns here with another space weather and geo update. We just had a big coronal mass ejection launched from the sun. Check this out. This is our 131 angstrom view of the sun. This is extreme ultraviolet light imagery. We only get this from space because normally these frequencies of light are absorbed into Earth's ionosphere. But we see there's a swirling of plasma from sunspot group 4461, and then like an electric discharge, it launched out a huge plasma storm, also synchronized with 4464 right there. Watch that, double synchronized flare. But this coronal mass ejection here is inbound to Earth. We see our coronagraph imagery of this, our differential view. And we also see our comment here from moderator. No, electronics are never in danger of space weather. Well, it depends. If you have something that's small, probably not a big deal. But if you have a satellite in space, yeah, space weather can knock it out. It can increase the drag. It can cause it to decay into the mesosphere effectively. If you have a larger electronic grid of some sort, then like a car, let's say, an electrical car, well, with a really big impact, like really big impact, maybe that could fry a car. Because it's all about the electric circuits and just their ability to conduct and flow electricity coming in from the environment. And during these sort of space weather events, you get these huge increases in electric current in the upper atmosphere, which can induce electric current in anything that is of sufficient size and conductivity to have this current induced within it. Now, typically this is power grids, long transmission lines, hundreds of kilometers long, get these voltage differentials that build up, and that can cause a power grid failure. In fact, just because of the last storm that we had, if you are new here, again, hello, welcome, I'm your host Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy, updating you on what's happening here on Earth energetically, earthquakes, volcanoes, solar activity, planetary alignments, and more. Well, we just got out of a G2 moderate geomagnetic storm. So that was just a couple days ago. We're still effectively in all the turbulence from that. And while this has been occurring, we just had a huge volcanic eruption from Shiveluch volcano in Kamchatka. Here we see the satellite imagery of this, okay? So I'll go forward in time and watch. Let's actually go back and do it by every 10-minute jump. Check out this eruption there. Big eruption from Shiveluch volcano, 12,000 meters up, so 12 kilometers up into effectively the very bottom of the stratosphere. So this is a pretty significant deal that we have happening right now. And we have another storm inbound. And yeah, electronics are sensitive to this. Our technology is sensitive to this. Our biology is sensitive to this. Our geology is sensitive to this. We already have seen from Shiveluch volcano, for example, the one I just showed you back in the end of January, beginning of February, how it was also synchronized with some powerful solar activity. We had a 8.2 X-class flare and also a 4.2 X-class flare that blasted off right at the end of January, beginning of February. And Shiveluch also had these huge eruptions back then, but in fact what we're seeing now is even bigger. So here we see this coronal mass ejection with a different view. The one that's happening right now, our 304 angstrom view of the sun. You see it blasting off like this to the southeast. So this is not 100% Earth directed. It could have been, but it's not 100% Earth directed. It is going a bit to the southeast, but in general, this is going to be hitting the Earth and triggering a geomagnetic storm, and it's coming in very fast. So the speeds on this were very rapid. I can show you the two models that we have for this. It's really quite remarkable. This is the bulk model. Here's the shock model. I'm pulling these up for you right now. And this is from NASA. They run these very, very quickly. Here we see our first model. This is for the bulk of the plasma that we just saw. You see it broadcasting out like this. Again, look at how the wave is mostly going here to the southeast, but it is sweeping by. And we are getting a direct hit. Also here you see south-north. Boom, direct hit. So along the ecliptic plane, going out everything, the bulk of that plasma will be hitting us, though there's probably one denser lobe more going off to the southeast, but this expands. That's the thing. If we were a planet hovering right there, right, it would hit us. And if we were a planet hovering right there, it wouldn't hit us really. There would be a shockwave component, but it expands out to 1 astronomical unit, and it'll expand much further than that. So the fact that this launched from pretty much in that Earth center strike zone, I mean, this is the real bullseye area right there, where we could get a solar broadside, right? The sun basically just makes these big sunspots, and it's also a window of planetary geometry affecting the overall magnetic dynamics and flux of these sunspots. Because what we've seen since solar cycle 22 is that there's been a decrease in sunspot numbers, but the overall amount of high frequency oscillations on the sun are just as prolific as they were with solar cycle 22, 23, much stronger than what we're seeing with sunspots right now, those solar cycles. And this is effectively suggesting that there is a condensation magnetic flux in the top 1,000 kilometers of the sun. So the outermost surface of the sun is stacked right now with magnetic flux, and this is like a decadal frequency of changing dynamics, probably related to Gleissberg cycles, which are solar cycles that line up with the Uranus and Neptune orbital resonance, which is interesting. And they all kind of line up. Also, Earth's nutation cycles roughly line up with these Gleissberg cycles for the past 100 years. So you could get a giant sunspot to form, and the only thing stopping us from getting a big broadside from that is if there in fact just simply is an explosion from that sunspot, because it can happen. And we could have lights out tomorrow, like literally, no joke. The fastest solar storms have come in at like under 16 hours. So you get it going across, and then boom, you are hit in less than 24 hours. And with a Carrington event, we'd be looking at severe technological disruptions. Certainly to our outer space environment, satellites, but we'd also see power grid failures, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing a nationwide power grid outage in Jamaica, perfectly lining up with this G2 geomagnetic storm. We often see that in Cuba, because they have, just in general, their power grids aren't as hardened. So even though the magnetic field fluctuations are less on those islands because they're closer to the equator, they do get hit harder. Here we see the shock wave for this, okay? So we see it going out, and this is more of a direct hit because we do get that perfect halo signature for this coronal mass ejection. So it's going out here. This is our top-down view, and this is our vertical south-north view. So again, we're really getting swiped by this quite clearly, and this is going to be a significant storm. So I have some footage I can show you of the volcanic eruption. Here's a photo to start. This is pretty wild. So here we see a photo from far off. This ash cloud, again, going up 12,000 meters. So this is almost 40,000 feet, right? To put this into the American perspective, you're flying jets up there, cruising altitude, effectively. So this is a very, very big volcanic eruption that has occurred in Russia, and here we see the video of it. And I'll click play, but big ash plume, as you can see, and then that goes out and disperses outwards. So this is really a volcano that's been very, very active. An interesting note is that the last period of big activity it had was end of January, beginning of February. Now the ash clouds were not going up this side. Look how it just hits that tropopause. Really cool, right? So this is the stratosphere right there. You can see it going right up to the tropopause, which separates the stratosphere and the troposphere. And once you're in the stratosphere, the circulation dynamics are totally different. That's where you need to go if you're a volcano, if you want to start cooling down the Earth. Okay, so that's why this is relevant. And we had this sort of activity from Shiveluch volcano back in the end of January, beginning of February, but the ash clouds weren't going up so high. They're going up 5,000 meters, 8,000 meters, 11,000 meters, right? But at the same time, though, we were having much bigger solar activity. So we can look at that right here. Look at our X-ray flux, which is a measure of these solar flares. And if we go back here to the very beginning of February, we see this 8.2 X-class flare right there, and then the 4.2 X-class flare. Boom, boom, huge events. The 8.2 being one of the strongest of the solar cycle. And that was not that long ago. So we see that that is, and then we had this activity here in the end of April, and then also some activity there beginning of April with some X flares. This specifically being, maybe this is actually March. That's actually the very end of March, and then here we have like April 24th. But now we're seeing Shiveluch pop off right here when we did get an X flare just a few days ago. Keep in mind that's charging the ionosphere. That energy takes time to circulate through the Earth and the global electric circuit. Shiveluch pops off. We have another 1.8 M-class flare. Not the strongest flare. That's kind of the interesting thing about this solar flare. Long duration though. Look at that. Nice long duration, but it's not an X flare. This is just a 1.8 M flare. We did get a couple solar flares before it, kind of saying, hey, something's happening. And we look at this nice trio there. We've been getting triples the whole time. Like you see 3 flares there, 3 flares there, and then another 3 flares right here. So maybe this is going to be the first in 3. We very well could just be seeing more activity in general. Now, if we go back to our sun here, and we'll get the close-up view of it, you'll notice the synchronization with the other sunspot right here. Okay? So you'll see that they both pop off. This one very well could give us a show in a few days. But you will also notice, if you look closely, that there's this filament right in here. See that? Yeah, see that right there? And then that is what actually blasted off. So you had this plasma filament in close connection to a sunspot. Plasma filament is a tube of plasma, okay? And what these do is they're very interesting. You get this differentiation of elements based on ionization potential, because there's these magnetic and electric fields that create these tubes, and then you have elemental differentiation that occurs. A lot of people think the sun is just hydrogen, just helium. There's actually all the different elements on the sun, just in various degree, basically amounts. You'll have a little bit of iron there, extremely ionized iron. And so you'll get this magnetic tube and this differentiation occur, and they form these rings. This is our theoretical framework, at least. And then a surge of current through that, or this tube passing over a really twisted magnetic field, can cause this torsion and then this release like that. So you see that's exactly what happened. Got a little burst earlier, didn't actually do anything, and then it goes off, that one working sympathetically with it. So in looking at the sun, you can look at all these different sunspot groups right now. I have a video here of the full sun. It's not the highest resolution, but I was looking at this earlier on my own. And there's just so many sunspots on the sun right now that they can form these plasma filaments pretty quickly, or these other just interesting dynamics, and just start popping off. And we have more coming in, which is my video yesterday. So we have a whole bunch leaving. Their time is done, though they could certainly flare and charge up the ionosphere. But in terms of like potentials for future activity going into June, and through this Venus-Jupiter conjunction that we have on the 9th, and today it's a 6-6 portal, well, we see that there's clearly a lot of potential. So we'll have to keep a very close eye on these sunspots. If you want to do this yourself, I recommend you download JHelioViewer from ESA, and then you can zone in on this 4K imagery and look at it, and really, someone that was really paying attention saw that little plasma filament there in the hours beforehand and saying it's about to go. So you can certainly go down and really look at things that granularly now with the tools and technology that we have. Now here we see our proton flux, and we see that in fact we are going up. So we're not at an S1 proton radiation storm yet from that, but it is elevated about 8 times right now. It needs to go up another 10x to get over 10 for a greater than 10 mega electron volt protons, but we have seen this increase, indicating that this is a pretty significant solar flare coronal mass ejection impact. Like the whole thing is powerful. Long duration, increased proton flux, It's going to come in less than 36 hours according to the velocity estimates of it going out, which the bulk of the plasma, 1400 kilometers per second, and the shockwave component to it at 1700 kilometers per second. And we can in fact look at that shockwave too. Here we have our SUVI imagery, and if we go to our 193 view here, or 195 for this specifically, we will see it. So let me get this set up. Boom, there we go. There's a bug right now at the website, which is why that's up there. But you'll see the shockwave come off from it pretty soon. So give this a watch. It's pretty fast, but you'll see it. And you get these sort of shockwaves when they're big explosions. There it is. So we have that coming in. It's not 1 minute to midnight. It's something that we've seen before many times, but that doesn't mean that it's not something that doesn't impact us. Just because Earth has been hit by a lot of solar storms throughout its lifetime, and the sun has sent off a bunch of solar storms across its lifetime, you know, that's what drives the geology in many aspects on this planet. Of course, there's intrinsic geology, things that would happen regardless due to other external factors and forces. You have, for example, a meteor impact to the Earth. Of course, that's going to trigger a whole geologic change to that local area, and then whatever the global effects are, the global effects. We really think that plate tectonics in some aspect was started by these impactors coming in and stirring things up, because after the accretion, you already have all this turbulent flow. You continue to get some big impacts as the crust hardens. You can get like drip tectonics, and then you get larger circulation, and boom, now the engine's running. So these keep the engine running as well. That's the thing. Once the engine's going, you don't need a Chicxulub impact 7 kilometers across to keep plate tectonics going. But you do need a regular amount of energy coming in from the sun. The sun has plenty of energy and has plenty of plasma to spare. So there's no shortage of that. So if we go to Kamchatka, our KVERT team here with the, here we go. With the volcano, Shiveluch volcano, we see that's currently at a red status as a result of this very big ash cloud that was sent up, 10,000, 12,000 meters. And they're basically saying that explosive, intrusive eruption of the volcano is continuing, and ash explosions up to about 40,000 feet could occur at any time. So ongoing activity could affect international and low-flying aircraft. So this is the highest level that they have, which is red, as we see here. So now, I mean, if this thing was to literally just completely explode and be the biggest volcanic eruption in 50 years, you know, this doesn't even, we're in a whole new zone, baby. This is like Burgundy or something. It's like we're not there. But this volcano could do this. It is one of Russia's most active volcanoes. Keep that in mind. So we've seen activity like this before. We'll see it again, but it is interesting to see it perfectly lining up with the solar activity. And if we go to our webcam here, we see what's happening with the different volcanoes along the Kamchatka Peninsula. Refreshing it here and getting you the latest views. But we see Kluchevskoy volcano there has been erupting a bit, and also Shiveluch volcano having a new little amount of ash coming up, but nothing super crazy at this point. How do I get this? Oh, let's move over. So nothing super crazy at this point, but Shiveluch is basically ready to go at any moment in time. Many other volcanoes are ready to go at any moment in time. So we'll just have to wait and see. Now, if we look at our magnetic field measurements from Shumagin, which is just Alaska, Aleutian Islands to the east, we see this geomagnetic storm that we've been in right here. So we're looking at a few different things with our magnetic field data here. And if I go over, see that this is our total field. This is our vertical, and then our Y and our X component, okay? And you see the onset of the geomagnetic storm pretty easily. This is going back to the 3rd of June, which is when we had the big activity, Well, that came in and hit us yesterday on the 5th. So we see suddenly the geomagnetic storm hit. Look at the oscillations in Earth's magnetic field, right? They also have a fairly big rhythm here, right? It's like an hour, multi-hour long period wavelength. Also quite a bit of volatility and jaggedness. That right there is when Shiveluch erupted. So this huge excursion in the Y component is exactly when the volcano erupted. The signature in general is of a geomagnetic storm, so it is going to be a little wild. But we do see an anomaly right there in the Y component from Schumagen, right around 8 a.m. Universal Time today, the 6th, which is when Shiveluch erupted on the Kamchatka Peninsula. So the last thing I can do for you guys is check in our real-time solar wind, well, our solar wind model from NOAA. We do see our low energy protons are starting to go up. So this will hit us pretty quick. This will be coming in less than 48 hours. If we look at our solar wind prediction, let's see if they've updated the model. They just did. How about that? I had a feeling they would. So now we can look at NOAA's model for this. Check out this. It's just going to be one coronal mass ejection. They show it going more to the southeast than NASA, but they do show us getting hit right by the edge of it. So plasma density going up, and they show velocity going up to about 700 kilometers per second. I think it'll probably come in a little faster than that. Our solar wind is already about 550 kilometers per second. So this is what they're showing. If you live in a high latitude location, you probably already are seeing aurora, at least people right now in Europe. Earlier, last night they saw some aurora. So keep in mind, we got more activity coming in, and very well, I think we're gonna have more after this. Just because there's just so many sunspots right now circling around the sun. We're just in the next month, it could be very exciting. Actually, I think this entire summer is gonna be exciting as it relates to solar activity. If you look at our latest earthquakes, we see 4.4 just struck Japan. So nothing really of note, just a whole bunch of magnitude 4s scattered around. Japan's finally kind of simmered down after having a lot of activity over the past 6 months. What we have been seeing is all our activity has been clustered roughly in the southern hemisphere and for the Pacific plate in general. So that is kind of notable because we see some magnitude 5s clustered here. If I just turn this on like this, you'll see. We see our magnitude 5s only for the map area, okay? If I click that off, you see it doesn't change. If I really zoom in here for our map area, you see it doesn't change. List them only for the map area. We see all our strongest earthquakes are in this zone, primarily southern hemisphere, though Mexico up here, a little higher up, obviously northern hemisphere. But it looks like we're seeing just in general some movement with the Pacific plate, and we'll see where that goes. I've shared a lot with you in terms of what I think can happen and potential timelines for this. I guess I'll just say one last thing. I had this idea yesterday. The magnitude 6.9 earthquake that struck California, Loma Prieta, that occurred with the Niners. And they're big, if I remember right, it was the Niners at the World Series in San Francisco. And there was a geophysicist geologist guy who put out a earthquake prediction that there was going to be an earthquake during the game, like that day during the game. And it happened, magnitude 6.9. And well, we have the World Cup coming up in Los Angeles, in SoCal. So there's gonna be tons of people in California, June, July, because of the World Cup. And it's not a surprise that you have the big earthquake strike during the World Cup game for the Giants. Sorry, the San Francisco Giants, not the 49ers. Maybe it was the 49ers doing something. I think it could have been the 49ers. Let's look it up. Loma Prieta. I don't want to tell you a story if I'm not even getting it right. Loma Prieta earthquake. I think it was 49ers with the Super Bowl. Maybe that was it. or it was the Giants. It was like one of the two. Maybe someone in the chat can. It was baseball. It was the. Here we have it. It was the A's versus Giants. Okay, Loma Prieta, A's versus Giants. The 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake struck on October 17th, 1989 at 5:04 p.m. Game 3 was scheduled to start at 5:35 p.m. Thousands of people were in the stadium when the quake hit, right? First major earthquake to be broadcast in the United States. So that's what I'm saying. Okay, so it's A's versus Giants. Thank you, everybody. 1989. California has this celebrity energy to it. It's just undeniable. Like, the culture is spread out across the world through Hollywood and more. So it's very California for there to be a big earthquake when you have the World Cup going on. Let's just say that. And everyone, there's like 10 stadiums with 50,000 people all shaking. And God, hopefully everyone's fine. But I just wouldn't be. If there's ever a time for it to happen, we've already discussed all the geologic forces, like everything's basically lined up, locked up, ready. Nevada's unlocked. We just had activity up here, Juan de Fuca. We were having activity around Mexico. California is the only place that hasn't done a rupture. If it's World Series would be a good time. Not in terms of people, but just for the full archetypal expression of everything, it'd be pretty on the point, on the nose. So we'll see what happens. This is not I wouldn't call that like a super serious forecast, but I was thinking about that, and I was like, that could happen. So that is your update, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We have a couple super thanks. Let's go through them really quickly. Thank you, Sean, and thank you, Jason. Is this activity weakening Earth's natural defenses? Not necessarily. Earth has a magnetic field. It's undergoing its own changes, and they certainly are connected together. But the magnetic field of the Earth is generated intrinsically, for the most part, within the Earth. You do also have, if you have strong electric currents in the ionosphere generating the magnetic field in that location, and that radiates out to the magnetoposit and also downwards to Earth. So the overall charge of Earth's ionosphere is an important component of Earth's overall magnetic field. Things of this nature, movements in the plasmasphere, etc. But the main magnetic field is generated in the core. So it's more so how do they, not necessarily just weakening, how are they interconnected and related together? So that's the short I can give to you. Yeah, there's terrestrial as well as extraterrestrial forces. And thank you, Deuce, for the super thanks. Gaia is asking, how does this all affect those sensitive to energies? And what are the things we can do in such times to stay centered and keep creating the abundant life that we seek? That's a good question. And that requires, that could be a whole philosophical discussion. So we'll see how much we get into it. I'm pulling up another image of the sun right here. So how does this affect all those who are sensitive to the energies, and what are things we can do such times to stay centered and keep creating the abundant life that we seek? Much love and appreciation. Well, all I can share is a story that happened to me yesterday. I went out to go to the gym, but I ended up walking around a lot playing volleyball. It was really good, and you're like diving for the ball, and you're getting in the sand, and you're grounding the whole time, you're moving, it's feeling good. And then I went to the beach afterwards, and I wasn't planning on getting in the water, but I definitely needed to do some grounding because the volleyball is tough on the body and other things in life. And I was like wearing my shoes, and I didn't really want to take them off. I was like, oh, but I can put my hands on the ground. So the tide goes out. I've been watching it the whole time, and I put my hands on the ground, and it felt so good. I completely lost track of the waves. And then the wave came in, and my shoes and everything got totally soaked. And now I'm walking around barefoot the whole time, all the way back to my apartment, basically. So you have to also, as much as you may control the situation or strategies for improvement, sometimes you just got to let the thing happen. And the ocean is basically saying, dude, you need to do some deeper grounding. I'm going to knock those shoes off. And now you're 100% grounding for the next like 30 minutes. So go out of your way to really interact with the natural environment, because Mother Earth has this natural, very intelligent healing power and energy to her, and she'll take care of anything that you need. So that's what I believe, at least, and I think that message lands for Gaia 39. And just a super thanks here from Jason. Thank you so much. So yeah, a lot happening. The final thing to share is that we do have this Venus-Jupiter conjunction from geocentric perspective coming up on the 9th of June. So I can show you that right here. Here we see solar system scope. This is set for today, the 6th. It is the 6/6 portal, but we see here that in fact on the 9th we get this beautiful alignment of Venus and Jupiter, and that will perhaps shake things up a little bit. We'll see. In general, there's some overall planetary geometry that's active, that will be active all summer, but this is the next big alignment that we have right here. Make sure you go out at sunset and afterwards on the 8th, 9th, 10th. Even now, you'll see the three of them all together very, very nicely. So yeah, that is your update, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. One final thing that I can share while we are on the topic is that we do have a sale happening right now on the website that will be ending tomorrow. So if you wanted to make sure you pick up some products, if you're in the United States, now's the time. It's a 10% discount. So go to earthevolution.com. You can click the store, or just go to earthevolution.com/store. We have a whole bunch of products. We have herbal tea blends, merchandise. We have crystals. We have this excellent bug spray, fantastic for the summer. Muscle balm, and a spiritual starter pack here, including sage and a crystal and a spirituality. Bunch of stuff. These lapis lazuli are coming in just about a week, so get ready for that. Huge batch. Finally has come in from Afghanistan. But all this available. It's made with you in mind, your health and wellness, and your pocketbook, because I don't do these fake markup prices. This is the highest quality stuff that you can get. We make and mix ourselves in the United States, ship it out as soon as we can. And right now we are doing a 10% discount using the code BOOM. So BOOM, all one word, BOOM, 10% off at checkout. And we'll ship that out to you right away if you are in the United States. So yeah, thank you so much for everybody for all your support and love across time for this channel and for everyone here in the community. That's not just, one directional, it's really omnidirectional. I really see us creating more of a resonance than necessarily, and just like a standing wave of a certain earth conscious and loving peaceful energy. So this would not be possible without everyone here that is watching and participating. So thank you all so much, everybody. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next video.